Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 6 of 28 Days of Love. I hope your week started out well. I hope you're ready for more. I do want to share something that I thought was really cool with you before we get into today's topic. You've probably noticed in life times where you're thinking about someone and all of a sudden they call you out of the blue, or you have a certain song in your mind and you get in your vehicle and it's playing on the radio. These little synchronicities and things like that, which we kind of started to get into yesterday. But this project you're going to start to see with so many people, because there are so many of you starting to shift and focusing on the same things. We start to see a lot more of these little synchronicities. They will appear as coincidences, but really cool stuff starts to happen. It's like this global consciousness. And so the story I wanted to share is there is a friend of mine participating in this 28 Days of Love, and she lives out in Victoria, and I haven't seen her for quite a while. And we had a chat on the phone the other day. It was lovely. We didn't really talk about books or anything. We didn't at all. But what was really kind of cool was yesterday I had talked about this book, Fear. And after the email went out, she opened the email, read through it, and then she texted me right away. She says, "Oh my gosh, what is going on? I just bought this book yesterday." So she says, "Are we on in the same field, the energetic field?" And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to start to see. So notice and watch for that and share with me when you start to see those things, because that's what happens when a group of us start to all shift and focus on the same thing. Really neat stuff like that happens. So anyway, I love that stuff, so let me know if it comes up, and I just like to share that with you. And so today we're going to talk about forgiveness. And this is something that is tough for a lot of us. And we've been talking about our thoughts and, being conscious of where our thoughts are, not being in the past and not being in the future too much. And when we do not forgive people, when we have that resentment, that tends to keep us in the past. We keep reliving the experience that created the resentment that we've developed. And forgiveness, I think sometimes we misunderstand what forgiveness really means. I think for a lot of us, we think if we forgive someone, we're saying, well, that's okay that you did that or that you said that. And that's not at all what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness is basically just saying, I am not going to hold that energy or those emotions or that experience that was related to whatever it was that happened. We're giving it back to that person. They can choose to, forgive themselves or deal with it in whatever way they choose to, because that's their choice. And there's a quote that I love. It says, "Holding resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." And it's so true, but so many of us do it. And I've seen it. You've probably seen it. A lot of times, especially, in relationships that end, especially if one partner was really hurt and, they choose to hold on to that resentment because, in this strange way, they seem to think that by them suffering or it's punishing the other person. And it's so unhealthy. And so it's so important for us to release that stuff and to forgive. And a lot of times, the biggest forgiveness that we need is for ourselves, because we are our own worst critics. And so it's really important to forgive ourselves, because we need to remember that we're just going through this learning every single day. And it's okay if we make mistakes or we make choices that don't necessarily, create the best outcome for us. Again, it's that whole learning. And how would we know, light if we didn't know dark? How would we know love if we didn't know fear and that sort of thing. So it's opportunity for growth. And so today I'm going to include a few links to some different sites and resources that can give you some tools to help with forgiveness if you have a hard time with it, because it isn't easy. Sometimes it takes a long time. Even myself, I can tell you from experience, you work on forgiveness and you think, okay, I've forgiven this person. And then, something happens and you get that little poke again and you realize, oh no, I still have a little bit of resentment or anger or whatever there. And so you just continue to work through it and to move towards forgiveness. And really it's about freedom, right? We cannot get out of that past until we forgive. And so along with the links and the resources that I'm going to give you to help with that, your homework or the recommendation I'm going to give to you is to, again, take a few moments to remove yourself from the busyness of life, remove yourself from the distractions, and sit down, connect to that place of love, take a few deep breaths. And I want you to think about, from today back, who might you be holding some resentment towards or some anger towards? And start to make a list and write those names down. And then there are a few different ways that you can test, whether you actually do have resentment or whether you have forgiven that person. But one of the things that you can do, just as a quick little test, I guess, is to, once you have your list, bring your hand onto your heart and actually say out loud, I forgive so-and-so, and start with the first name and see how that feels. If it feels absolutely genuine and good, you've probably forgiven them. If there's that little bit of discomfort or it just doesn't feel right, there's a need to forgive. You're still holding on to some resentment or anger or whatever it is. And as we continue on with this, we're going to talk more about emotions and how to process emotions. And so that might be something that helps if you're struggling as well. But for now, let's just make that list. Let's start to maybe shift our perspective on forgiveness so that we can start to feel comfortable forgiving people and be moving more towards that, as opposed to holding on to that resentment and thinking that we're punishing them, because we're not. We're punishing ourselves. So set yourself free. I'm going to leave it at that. No book recommendations for today. I'll include a few more things in the email. And again, keep the feedback coming, your stories, what you're noticing, anything you want to share. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a fabulous day. Keep doing all the work, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.